What do you think is the most successful scam in history? Most people would say Ponzi schemes, or maybe Enron. But here's the thing. Those scams collapsed. The perpetrators went to prison. The money disappeared. But there's one scam that's still running, still making billions, and most people don't even realize it's a scam. Diamonds. The diamond on your finger? It's not rare, it's not valuable, and it's definitely not forever. Diamonds are one of the most common gemstones on Earth. They're made of carbon, the same element as pencil lead. But somehow, we've been convinced that you need to spend 3 months' salary on one to prove you love someone. That idea didn't come from tradition. It came from a marketing campaign, created by the world's most successful monopoly, a monopoly built on African exploitation, artificial scarcity, and one of the most brilliant propaganda operations in history. The company was De Beers. The fortune it created still exists today. And the family that built it spent a century making sure you'd never question where that fortune came from. This is the story of diamonds. To understand how diamonds became valuable, you need to understand what they actually are. Diamonds are crystallized carbon. When carbon is subjected to extreme pressure and heat deep in the Earth's mantle, about 150 kilometers down, the carbon atoms arrange themselves in a crystal lattice structure. That's it. That's a diamond. Compressed carbon. They're brought to the surface through volcanic eruptions. Kimberlite pipes. These pipes are found all over the world: Russia, Australia, Canada, Brazil, and significantly, Africa. Diamonds aren't rare. We find new deposits constantly. But for most of human history, diamonds were relatively rare because we didn't know where to look. Ancient civilizations valued them, but they weren't the ultimate symbol of wealth. That was gold, emeralds, rubies, sapphires. Diamonds were just another gemstone. Then came the discovery that changed everything. In 1866, a 15-year-old boy named Erasmus Jacobs found a shiny pebble on his father's farm near the Orange River in South Africa. 21 carats. It was a diamond, the Eureka diamond, the first diamond discovered in South Africa. Initially, everyone thought it was a fluke. One diamond doesn't mean there are more. But in 1869, a shepherd found another diamond, 83.5 carats, the star of South Africa. Suddenly, people were paying attention. Prospectors flooded into South Africa. What they found was extraordinary, not just scattered diamonds, but kimberlite pipes filled with them, concentrated diamond deposits unlike anything seen before. The Kimberley area had some of the richest diamond deposits on Earth. The diamond rush began. By 1871, 50,000 miners were working in Kimberley. They dug by hand, creating deeper and deeper pits. The big hole in Kimberley eventually reached 240 meters deep, all dug with shovels and pickaxes. But here's where the story gets interesting, because one man saw what this discovery meant and decided to control it all. Cecil Rhodes was born in 1853 in Hertfordshire, England. Son of a vicar, sickly as a child. He was sent to South Africa at 17 for his health. He arrived with almost nothing. Within 2 decades, he would control 90% of the world's diamond production. Rhodes wasn't a miner. He was a businessman. He understood something fundamental. Diamonds were only valuable if they were scarce. If the South African deposits flooded the market, prices would collapse. Supply and demand. Too much supply meant diamonds would become worthless. So Rhodes set out to control the supply. He started buying up small mining claims in Kimberley. In 1880, he formed the De Beers Mining Company, named after the farm where diamonds had been found. But he didn't stop there. He began a systematic campaign to consolidate every diamond mine in South Africa under one company. His main rival was Barney Barnato, another diamond magnate. For years, they competed, bought claims, undercut each other, fought for dominance. Then, in 1888, Rhodes made Barneto an offer. Merge. Combine their companies into one entity that would control everything. Barneto agreed. On March 13, 1888, they formed De Beers Consolidated Mines. The new company controlled the entire South African diamond output, and South Africa produced 90% of the world's diamonds. Rhodes had created a monopoly, the most successful monopoly in modern history. The scale of control was staggering. De Beers didn't just own the mines, they controlled every step: mining, sorting, cutting, distribution. If you wanted to buy diamonds wholesale, you bought from De Beers. At their price, under their terms. Or you didn't buy at all. Rhodes became obscenely wealthy. By 1891, De Beers was producing 95% of the world's diamonds. Rhodes used that wealth to expand British colonial power in Africa. Rhodesia, modern-day Zimbabwe and Zambia, was named after him. He was Prime Minister of the Cape Colony. His fortune built universities, foundations. The Rhodes Scholarship still exists today, funded by his estate. But let's be clear about where that fortune came from. The mines. The working conditions in De Beers mines were brutal. Black African workers, many forced into mining through various coercive means, worked in pits hundreds of feet deep. They were strip-searched at the end of every shift to prevent diamond theft. They lived in compounds surrounded by barbed wire. They couldn't leave without permission. The mortality rate was staggering. Cave-ins, flooding, disease. Workers died by the hundreds. But there was always a supply of new workers. Because the alternative, for many Africans, was starvation. Colonial policies had deliberately destroyed traditional economies to create a labor force for the mines. Rhodes didn't care. Quote, "I prefer land to niggers," end quote, he famously said. His vision was white colonial domination of Africa, funded by diamonds extracted by black labor. This was the foundation of the De Beers fortune. African workers dying in holes in the ground so diamonds could be sold to European aristocrats. Rhodes died in 1902, but the monopoly didn't die with him. It passed to new hands, the Oppenheimer family. Ernest Oppenheimer was born in 1880 in Germany. He came to South Africa in 1896 to work in the diamond industry. Like Rhodes, he understood that control meant wealth. By 1917, he'd founded Anglo-American Corporation. By 1929, he controlled De Beers. The Oppenheimer family would run De Beers for the next 80 years. 3 generations. Ernest, his son Harry, his grandson Nicky, and they perfected what Rhodes had started. But the Oppenheimers faced a new problem. Diamond discoveries outside South Africa. If other countries started producing diamonds independently, the monopoly would break. So De Beers developed a new strategy. They didn't try to stop other countries from mining diamonds. They bought their output. Russia discovered diamonds in the 1950s. De Beers made a deal. They'd buy all of Russia's diamonds. Russia got cash. De Beers maintained control of the supply. Australia discovered diamonds. De Beers bought their output. Canada, Botswana. Every new discovery, De Beers either controlled the mine directly or made agreements to purchase the diamonds. By the 1980s, De Beers controlled over 80% of the world's rough diamond supply. They operated what they called the syndicate, a cartel. They set prices. They restricted supply. They determined how many diamonds entered the market each year. This wasn't a secret. Beers openly admitted to controlling supply to maintain prices. In a 1982 interview, Harry Oppenheimer said, quote, "A degree of control is necessary if the diamond is to be kept a luxury product," end quote. Think about that. A degree of control. Diamonds aren't naturally luxurious. They're made luxurious by restricting supply, artificial scarcity. De Beers had warehouses in London filled with diamonds, billions of dollars worth, stockpiled, kept off the market deliberately to maintain the illusion of rarity. If supply increased, they bought more and stored them. If demand dropped, they released fewer. They manipulated the market completely. But controlling supply was only half the equation. De Beers also had to control demand. They had to make people want diamonds. Not just want them. Need them. Associate them with love, commitment, and status. This is where the real genius came in. The marketing. In 1938, De Beers hired the N.W. Ayer advertising agency in New York. Their mission? Make Americans want to buy diamonds. At the time, diamond engagement rings weren't standard in America. Some people bought them. Most didn't. Only about 10% of engagement rings featured diamonds. The agency launched one of the most successful marketing campaigns in history. They placed diamonds in movies. They got celebrities to wear them. They created the idea that a diamond engagement ring wasn't just nice, it was necessary. A man who truly loved his fiancée proved it with a diamond. In 1947, the agency created a slogan. 4 words. A diamond is forever. Brilliant. Multiple meanings embedded in one phrase. The diamond itself lasts forever. Chemically inert carbon. Your love lasts forever. And critically, you never resell a diamond. It's forever yours. This prevented a secondary market that would compete with De Beers' new diamonds. The campaign worked beyond anyone's wildest expectations. By 1951, 80% of American engagement rings featured diamonds. By the 1990s, it was over 90%. De Beers had created a tradition out of nothing, made it seem ancient and inevitable. They didn't stop there. In the 1960s, they launched the campaign in Japan, where diamond engagement rings didn't exist at all. Traditional Japanese weddings involved no rings, but De Beers convinced an entire culture to adopt a Western custom. By 1990, 77% of Japanese brides wore diamond engagement rings. This was manufacturing desire, creating demand for something people didn't know they needed. And it worked. Global diamond jewelry sales went from $200 million in 1940 to over $70 billion by 2010. The Oppenheimer family wealth grew accordingly. By 2000, Nikki Oppenheimer had a net worth estimated at over $6 billion. That fortune came directly from the monopoly, from controlling supply, from manipulating demand, from African mines where workers still faced dangerous conditions and poverty wages. But the 90s brought a problem De Beers couldn't control through marketing. Blood diamonds, civil wars in Sierra Leone, Angola, and the Democratic Republic of Congo were being funded by diamond sales. Rebel groups controlled diamond mines. They forced civilians to dig. Used the diamonds to buy weapons. The diamonds entered the market through smuggling, often ending up in legitimate jewelry stores. The term blood diamonds, or conflict diamonds, entered public consciousness. The scale was staggering. In Sierra Leone's civil war, which lasted from 1991 to 2002, over 70,000 people died. The Revolutionary United Front, RUF, funded itself through diamond mining. They used systematic mutilation, cutting off hands and limbs, to terrorize populations into compliance. These diamonds were sold to international dealers. Cut, polished, set in engagement rings, worn by people who had no idea where they came from. De Beers claimed they weren't involved. That blood diamonds were a problem in conflict zones, not their mines. But here's the reality. Diamonds are nearly impossible to trace once they're mined. A diamond from Sierra Leone looks identical to a diamond from Botswana. De Beers' own system of buying diamonds from multiple sources meant blood diamonds entered their supply chain. They just didn't ask questions. The publicity was devastating. Hollywood made Blood Diamond in 2006. The industry faced massive pressure. Consumers didn't want their engagement rings to have funded atrocities. In 2003, the Kimberley process was established, a certification scheme to prevent conflict diamonds from entering the market. Participating countries certify that diamonds are conflict-free. Sounds good. But the Kimberley process has massive loopholes. Enforcement is weak. Corruption is widespread. Human rights groups estimate that billions of dollars in conflict diamonds still enter the market annually. Meanwhile, De Beers rebranded. They emphasized their mines in stable countries like Botswana and Canada. They launched the Forever Mark brand, claiming ethical sourcing. They partnered with governments to appear responsible. But the fundamental structure hasn't changed. Diamonds are still extracted largely in Africa. Workers still face exploitation. And the Oppenheimer family still benefits. In 2012, the Oppenheimer family sold their stake in De Beers to Anglo American Corporation for $5.1 billion. Nicky Oppenheimer walked away with cash. The fortune built over a century, extracted from African soil, transferred to liquid assets. Today, De Beers controls about 30% of the diamond market. Still significant, but no longer the monopoly it was. Competition from Russian and Canadian producers broke the stranglehold. Lab-grown diamonds are now a threat, chemically identical to mined diamonds, but without the human cost. But here's what hasn't changed. The idea that diamonds are valuable, that they represent love, that you need one to get married. That mythology persists. Even though everyone now knows diamonds aren't rare. Even though we know about blood diamonds. Even though lab-grown diamonds exist and cost 80% less. We still buy them. Because De Beers didn't just sell diamonds. They sold an idea. And ideas are harder to kill than monopolies. So, what do we learn from diamonds? First, scarcity can be manufactured. Diamonds aren't rare. De Beers made them seem rare by controlling supply. This created value from nothing. The same tactic has been used for countless products since. Artificial scarcity is a business model. Second, marketing can create traditions. The diamond engagement ring seems timeless, ancient, universal. It's none of those things. It's a 90-year-old marketing campaign. But we've internalized it so completely that questioning it feels wrong. That's the power of sustained propaganda. Third, monopolies built on exploitation don't end, they evolve. Cecil Rhodes's empire was built on African suffering. That fortune became the Oppenheimer fortune, which became legitimate investments, philanthropic foundations. The Rhodes Scholarship educates future leaders. Built on what, exactly? On workers dying in diamond mines. Fourth, we're complicit. Every diamond purchased sustained the monopoly, funded the exploitation, created demand that justified the supply chain. Individual choices, multiplied by millions, create systems, and those systems have consequences. Fifth, truth doesn't always change behavior. Everyone knows diamonds aren't rare. The industry is widely documented. Blood diamonds are public knowledge. And yet, diamond sales continue. Because the emotional attachment created by marketing is stronger than rational knowledge. Let's be clear about what diamonds are. They're compressed carbon, literally the same element as coal. They're not rare. New deposits are discovered constantly. They're not actually forever. They can burn or shatter. They're not traditionally associated with marriage in most cultures. Everything you believe about diamonds was designed by marketers, working for a monopoly. That monopoly was built by men who openly expressed racist ideologies and used forced labor. The fortune they created still exists. The families that benefited still live in luxury. The workers who died in the mines got nothing. Should the Rhodes Scholarship acknowledge it's funded by colonial exploitation? Should the Oppenheimer family wealth be examined for its origins? Should we stop pretending diamonds are special? These are uncomfortable questions, but they need to be asked, because the diamond industry is a perfect case study in how value is constructed, not inherent. Constructed through control of supply, through marketing, through creating emotional associations, through making something seem traditional when it's manufactured. The engagement ring tradition is less than a century old, but it feels eternal. That's how good the marketing was. De Beers took something common and made it priceless. They took exploitation and made it romantic. They took a monopoly and made it about love. And we bought it, literally and figuratively. The diamond on your finger isn't rare. It's not valuable. It's not forever. It's marketing. And underneath that marketing is a century of monopoly control, artificial scarcity, and African exploitation. The families that built their fortunes on this system don't want you thinking about that. They want you thinking about love, about commitment, about forever. But forever is a long time, and history doesn't forget. The truth is ugly, but it's the truth. And maybe it's time we stopped letting marketing overwrite reality. Anyway, that's it from me. Feel free to discuss your thoughts below. You've been watching Threads of Civilization. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.